Lou Manfredini, Ace's home expert. In this video, we're going to show you how to change the blade in a circular saw. Let me show you how it's done. Okay, for the most part, the circular saws and how you change the blade is pretty similar, but I do want to point out the fact that different manufacturers are set up a little bit differently. So this is going to kind of be an overview so that you understand how to change the blade. Now this circular saw is a 7¼ inch blade saw. The vast majority of saws, circular saws that you will see, this is probably the most common that's out there. And we're going to replace it with this blade right here, and you can see that it's got the 7¼ inch blade notation. Now I'll talk about the orientation of the blade in just a bit. The thing that I want you to remember is that even a dull blade is sharp, and so you have to be very careful. This is a battery operated circular saw. I've removed the battery so there's no power to it whatsoever. If you have an electric one that's corded, obviously unplug it so there's no power to the saw whatsoever. On the back side of this saw is an Allen wrench here that fits into this nut right here that we're going to remove to change the blade. Now when you place this inside, you can see that I can rotate this blade, but we need to loosen it. The threads here are typical righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. I'm going to rotate this saw. There is a button right here that you push, and what that does is it goes into the cam of the motor itself, and when you hold it in place, it locks it, so you hold that firmly with one finger, and then you loosen the nut until it locks in. And this will be pretty tight, but once you kind of crack it a little bit and you hold it, you can loosen that nut up and take it off like this. Now the nut stays there. There's a retaining washer here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this guard back a little bit, and if you kind of lift the blade carefully, the blade slides out, and hang on to that washer because you're going to need it. Now before you put the blade back in, make sure that there's no debris or anything in the way here that you know, might clog up inside there. It's just a good idea to inspect that. Now the orientation of a circular saw is that when it's spinning this way, as it cuts, it kind of cuts from the bottom and comes up to the front. And so the orientation, for the most part, with the blades, is that the teeth, if you can kind of see the direction of that teeth, as it's spinning, it's coming up. And for the most part, on what they call a sidewinder saw like this, the printing or the label of the blade is going to be out so you can see that. The one, I said, not all saws are the same. If we're talking about a worm drive saw, which is a specific type of saw, the blade actually goes the other way, so you won't see the printing on the blade itself. Now I'm going to just tighten this with my fingers, just kind of snug. I'm going to release that guard. And remember that button on the back that I spoke about? I'm going to hold that button down. And then I'm going to take the wrench and I'm going to tighten this. And I see it's locked in place. This has to be nice and tight. You don't have to over tighten it, but you got to give it enough pressure so that it's locked in place. And now that blade, as you can see, is where it needs to be. And remember I talked about that rotation, how it rotates this way to cut. That's the way the blades go. And now you've just replaced that saw blade and you're ready to get cutting. And that's it. If you need more information, just go to our website, acehardware.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Better yet, stop by your local Ace Hardware store, because Ace is the helpful place.